Welcome to Halftime. I'm Doug Piper, and I'm a Halftime alumni from Greenville, South Carolina, and this is our 44th live streaming event. I'll get it right. I'm out of practice by 4 months. It's been a little while, and I've really missed seeing you guys. But I want you to know how much I really and sincerely appreciate you joining us tonight and the time you're taking. Halftime is the world's leading peer learning center for successful people who are in transition. We teach, coach, and connect leaders who are looking for meaning, joy, and impact in their next season. If you are interested in some of our programs, there's a green button, maybe right down there in the bottom center of the screen. If you click on that, it'll set you up to email Lloyd because you can find out if you're interested about the 2022 Halftime Refresher. And you're going to hear more about that in today's program. One thing I really appreciate is if you'll vote in today's polls, because that shapes the future of our programming for this year. So just go in there. The first question will kind of set us up for today's program. The other two are possible programs for the rest of this year or next year. Now, after a brief summer break, we've all had a great summer, and I think you're going to really enjoy the upcoming events, starting with today's Refreshing Your Halftime Journey. See if we can bring everybody up on the screen successfully. All right. So far, so good. Now, we've got fellow halftimer Robert Barker, and he's going to share the joys of refreshing and recalibrating your halftime journey. Now, Robert leads the Bob Barker Company, and they provide jails, prisons, mental health, homeless shelters, and juvenile facilities with supplies to stay healthy, safe, and secure. He came through the Halftime Institute 9 years ago and built a roadmap for his health, his family, his charitable foundation, and the company as a platform for ministry. This includes some winsome ways to integrate his faith and compassion into their company with the goal of helping nearly every team member thrive as a person at work and at home. And nearly a decade later, Robert's in the middle of his halftime refresher. He wants to refine his purpose, his platform, people, and then whatever's needed to persist over the long haul. Now, we also have Halftime Institute's founding partner, Lloyd Reed. Lloyd, welcome. Robert, welcome. Lloyd, would you introduce the joys of how a refresher works?
Well, Doug, first of all, great to be back together, and thanks for your friendship and your partnership. Robert, thank you for joining us, and thank you for your friendship. In every profession, there is a continuing ed strategy to help people not only refresh the skills they have, but to stay up to speed on the latest learning in that particular area of expertise. And the same is true about your halftime journey. What we found is that from feedback through our thousands of alumni, both here in the US and around the world, that they really were longing for a way to connect back with a group of peers and go back through the process, building on what they already know about themselves and what's been working and maybe what's not working as well as they like. And then to integrate in some of the things that we've been learning. There have been so many best practices that we've learned since we started 23 years ago, and even over the last 9 years, right, Robert, since you and I went through this together. And it's amazing, isn't it, Robert, how quickly the 9 years or 10 years went by. And you've got a little more gray hair. I have a lot more gray hair. And I remember, you've got four kiddos, and they were all young. Now they're 14 all the way down to 6. And one of your new adopted little kids came along about that time. And now Aaron's 9. And what a joy to see that how fast that went, and the privilege of loving 4 little kids along this 9-year period. And you've made a lot of impact. You've made a lot of progress. And yet, as you turn a corner here and your company continues to grow and the impact grows, you can look ahead and say, so how do I refine this? And what I love about your perspective on life is you come at this as chief life officer. Even though it's your business and you and your sister and family have been running it for a long time, you still view yourself, your life, and your family and your company and your wealth as you're steward of them, and you're trying to bring your very best to it. We were just talking, you and I, about how that these 10 years went so fast. And I shared with you that I turned 60 in 3 days, right? And it just seems like I just had my 50th birthday party, and now we're planning another one. And frankly, I look back with no real regrets, and it's a joy to turn 60. It's a wonderful privilege to move into this season where you can bring wisdom from many years of serving to others, and hopefully you'll have a more leveraged impact in the years to come. And as I've shared with you, I believe that's true. I think you're going to not only impact the hundreds of employees that work for you, but also your whole industry. And so, to frame up this conversation, what we've done together, and along with our alumni, is to explore what is actually needed to come back and systematically refresh your halftime strategy, your roadmap, and your plans, and your dreams. And there are probably four pieces. First of all, it's your purpose. You come back to it, and sometimes your mission statement changes over time. And so you want to refine it. Remember that your purpose statement includes three things: what you're best at, what you care the most about, and the difference you most want to make in this world. And then secondly, your platform, because your platform comes out of your purpose. What platform, based on my unique mission and my strengths and experiences, will best enable me to make the contribution I feel called to make in this world? And you have done a rigorous job, Robert. I think it would be so easy for you to just assume your platform is what it is. And I love the fact that you have a parallel track where you have the for-profit business that's bringing compassion to not only your employees, but also being salt and light in the industry. And I want you to talk more about that. But then also the philanthropy piece of your foundation that your company, you have your company tithed to, that's focused on recidivism and making sure the people you serve in prison, when they get out and they're free, that they get healthy and they don't come back again. And so you've kind of pushed that into the middle of the table to say, how can we enhance that? And I love that this second piece of refresh, the platform piece, you have really not just blocked yourself from creativity, but you've pulled out all the stops in exploring that. And we'll talk a bit about that. The third is the people. Purpose, platform, and then people. Who are the people you need around you in order to finish well in this next season? And that probably changes from time to time. It certainly changes for me. And so you and I, we've created a people roadmap for the people that you're going to love extravagantly, but also the people you need around you to finish well. And then lastly, persistence. What is it going to take to finish well? And I remember Howard Hendricks saying to Bob Buford that after 60 years of studying the Bible, he felt that many of the biblical leaders didn't finish well. And so you and I want to buck that trend and do whatever it takes to finish well, and not just be a flash in the pan in our 50s. So Robert, take us back to your first half experience, your first halftime journey. Share a little bit about your business, this two-pronged strategy that I mentioned, and a little deeper on what the impact you're making inside the company. Maybe that big plan of the metrics of impact that you shared with us.
Sure. Thank you, Lloyd. I'm so grateful that I've had the opportunity to go through halftime with Lloyd about 9 years ago, and a group of fellow halftimers here in the Raleigh area. And it was a very impactful process that really got me thinking a lot about the long-term impact that I wanted to make through our business and the industry that we serve. And my involvement with C12, that probably began about maybe 15 or 16 years ago, I think kind of really prepared the soil of my heart for this perspective and this message that this really wasn't my business, but it was really God's business. And I've been entrusted as a steward to manage that business and to manage it well, and really to think about the platform that we had in that business with now with 250 employees, with hundreds of suppliers, with 10,000 customers, and millions of people that were entrusted to the care of our customers, really thinking more holistically about the ministry platform that we had there and the opportunity for us to impact lives. And shortly before beginning halftime, the Lord had really put it on my heart to begin to research and try and understand some of the bigger issues and challenges facing our industry. And as I did that, this issue of recidivism kept coming up again and again, which is this issue of when someone leaves a correctional facility today, typically 68% of them will find themselves back in a correctional facility within 3 years. Wow. And the children of incarcerated individuals are 5 times as likely to be incarcerated themselves as the next child beside them. And so there's both this within a person's life and then this intergenerational issue of recidivism that has really been one of the key drivers of this incredible growth of correctional populations from the 1970s of around 300,000 to closer to 2.3 million today. And so just as God was working on my heart about that and thinking about that more, it was really challenging me to rethink the vision of the business. And prior to that, our vision was, Bob Barker's the worldwide leader, delivering innovative supplies and services to correctional and rehabilitation customers. And we changed that vision to transforming criminal justice while honoring God in all that we do, and really recognizing the need for redemption and change within our industry, and recognizing that God calls us to redeem all things in his creation. And our assignment at Bob Barker was this area of criminal justice. And really, we've been on a journey since then to figure out, exactly what that means for Bob Barker Company and how we pursue that vision. We've definitely thought for a long time about how we care for the team members in our business and their family members, and are concerned with their well-being, and have done a number of things over the years to really encourage their spiritual growth, including introducing corporate chaplains to our business, as well as having a full-time care manager in our business that's really focused on our team members' well-being. And over the course of this period of time, we've had 82 people that have come to commit their lives to Christ for the first time. We've had another 236 people that have recommitted their lives to Christ. We've had chaplains that have visited 385 occasions to team members in hospitals to demonstrate love and care towards them. 5 times visiting team members in jail, performed both weddings and funerals for our team members. And so it's been amazing to see the ministry impact that we can have with those that we're closest with in the business. And over the years, God's just continued to open our eyes to the opportunities that we have for ministry impact. And so today, in boxes that leave the Bob Barker Company Distribution Center, there's a Gospel of John and a plan of salvation that goes out in each of those that we're hoping reaches the inmates and facilities that we serve, as well as the correctional officers that may need that hope and faith in Christ. Now, when we introduced that vision, we also made the decision that we're going to create a foundation, and that we would start tithing out of the net income of the foundation, out of the net income of the business to the foundation, the Bob Barker Foundation, which assets have grown in the foundation there to over $15 million today. We've given away over $5 million to hundreds of nonprofit organizations that are helping men and women reenter the community and stay out of prison for life. And just had the opportunity a few weeks ago to attend a graduation for a program that we helped bring here and set up in North Carolina at Sampson Correctional Institute, just about an hour down the road. where 11 men received their associate's degrees from Campbell University while incarcerated, and 10 of those will be continuing on to achieve their bachelor's degree, and another 16 men will be starting that same program. And based on the research and information we've seen from other programs, there's a recidivism rate of less than 1% for folks that go through higher education programs like that. And Campbell's involvement, of course, brings a faith perspective to that as well. So those are just some of the things that we've done through the work of the foundation and the company from a kingdom impact perspective.
So, Robert, here we are, 9 years later, and it's been affirmed in your heart, hasn't it, that this is what you care about. This is your purpose, and that's why you have this platform. So articulating it as I hear you articulate it to this new group of cohort that you're in, it's so much more real than it was when we were first starting. It was an idea 10 years ago, and now it's deep, it's rich, it's experiential. You can see the faces of people whose lives you've touched, and you know their stories, and you felt the pain of those that didn't get the help they needed. And so now you're looking at an even more serious level of, okay, so this could be my deal for the next 30 years, and I really want to transform this. And just growing the business to 500 employees and growing our net worth or revenue stream isn't that sexy anymore. So describe a little bit about what your refresher experience is like for you. Why did you do this? You're busy, very busy. What are you getting from it? I noticed in reading your roadmap now, and believe it or not, I have the one from 9 years ago. The depth of this. I mean, this roadmap is deep and rich, and when you talk about it, it just comes out of your heart, not your head, right? So talk a little bit about why you took time to do this, what you're getting from it, and what you're learning.
Sure. I mean, first of all, I would say when I first learned about the opportunity to do halftime refresher, I was excited about the opportunity because the first experience through was so impactful to me in my life and the direction of my life. And so I wanted the opportunity to do some more of that, and really enjoyed learning about halftime and getting to know you, Lloyd, and our other peers in that experience. And it was very encouraging experience to me to walk this path with other kingdom-minded individuals that wanted to make an impact with their lives. So I think for me, this refresher opportunity was just a great opportunity to step back into that and really examine the work that I had done there further and think about how to refine it and make it better, having lived through years of experience with it, and now having older children, having a larger business, being further along with the work of the foundation and seeing some of the fruits of the ministry impact in the business, and really stepping back from those things to think about how I needed to best adjust and refocus our efforts to make sure that we have the greatest impact to the cause. And I think one of the things that it really, I think there were parts of my plan that I was, really encouraged and enthusiastic about the progress that I'd made since then. One of the things that I'd focused on was my health, and lost like maybe 60 pounds since going through that process, and really made my health a bigger central focus, and really making sure that that I'm taking care of my health and wellness in a way that helps make sure that now at 50 we're talking about my halftime and not my 2/3 or 3/4 or 7/8 time, which of course all that's up to the Lord, but doing my part to make sure that I'm taking care of my health. But I think just an opportunity to really step back into that and refresh it based on the the current state of my life. And one of the things that I've already made in my calendar as a recurring appointment. You talked about really refreshing this on an annual basis every December. And I think that's a fantastic idea, right? As business owners, we would never create a plan and run it for 3 or 9 or 10 years and never revisit again and say what's working, what's not working, what do we need to change. And so why wouldn't we do the same thing with our own life plan? So I think that's a fantastic idea. This has been a great opportunity to do that. And I think Halftime is bringing some fresh new perspective about how to do some of these things in ways that are most effective. And they're also learning from other alumni in what has worked for them.
Yeah, that's a big thing, is because as you can imagine, we look over the shoulder of thousands of people every year that are going through this journey. We learn the best practices and then bring them back to this. So one of the things that Robert built is a platform map that really pushes us to re-envision your platform based on the characteristics that you feel are best going forward, and to push your creativity. And so you're working on an idea right now that maybe there's a for-profit play to be able to deliver a better care of the incarcerated population at low cost, or maybe very low cost to the government, lower cost to the government, and make it sustainable because it's profitable. Before you talk about that, though, one thing I did want to mention is when it comes to refreshing, every 10 years is a good sort of tripping point in life, is to stop every decade and ask yourself, what do I need to plan to abandon? This is something Drucker taught us: planned abandonment. And there are necessary endings in life. And then what do I need to focus on in the next decade? And then every year. So like you said, it's as simple as putting a recurring calendar appointment on your calendar for 2 hours every early December every year, and drag your roadmap document right in there, and just title it, spend 2 hours refreshing my roadmap for next year. And what happens with that is it makes it a bite-sized piece. When you think about, I'm going to redo my roadmap, you think that's weeks of work, but it's not. If you just put 2 hours on your calendar every December, and then I take 3 silent solo days a year, separate days, just to stop and listen to the Lord, and just to stop to listen to my heart and look at my plan quietly and think. And then I take, every Friday is a Linda Day. And so there's time for us to talk every week. Now, you may not want to take a single day every week, but you may want to carve out some time that's scheduled weekly to think. And so, the refresh discipline that we're not trying to pitch you a program. We're trying to present to you a discipline in life of refreshing your plan as Chief Life Officer. So, Robert, talk to us a bit more about your strategy to look at this lens completely from the other side and say, could we re-envision our business to deliver recidivism care in a sustainable way that's profitable?
Sure. Yeah, I think that's one of the things that we've seen in operating the nonprofit foundation these last 9 or 10 years is, ultimately the impact that these nonprofit organizations that are doing amazing work, right? The average nonprofit organization that's a grantee of the foundation that does have measures of recidivism, which most of them do, although not all do, the average recidivism rate is like in the mid-teens, like 12, 13, 14% versus national averages of 68%. So, right, ideally you'd say, okay, how do we do more of that? And how do we scale that across the entire country? But in the nonprofit model, ultimately that is limited in scope to funds that can be drawn to that nonprofit organization to expand and scale. And so a lot of times these organizations are ultimately very limited from a geographic impact. And we're not seeing a lot of scaling going on in terms of national efforts. And so that's, part of how God has really wired my mind. Went to school at the London School of Economics and Wharton School. So finance and numbers and all that are just part of how God wired me. And part of, as we were going back through my plan and doing the refresher, the thing that I probably felt like I'd made the least progress on was this idea of creating an alternative to incarceration that is compelling to government leaders, that produces returning citizens that stay out of prison for life, serving God, family, and community. And, it's kind of like, it's such a massive vision that it was a little bit overwhelming about how to think about going after it. And so we've actually recently been doing strategic planning over the course of the summer, and perfect God timing with halftime showing up at about the same time, of really thinking about how do we begin to step into that as a business without overwhelming our people, and think about that more deeply. So we've really been charting a course for our business where the company that has historically been a product distribution company we'll be celebrating our 50-year anniversary. We're second generation owners of the business in just this coming year. But really charting a course for the future of the business where the major drivers of growth of the business will be services that work to reduce recidivism in the future. And we're talking about ways to enter into that in the coming 3 years, but that really becoming the core focus of the business. And quite honestly, when we started thinking more deeply about this and talking to our leadership team about it, I was pretty concerned that we were going to freak out our entire leadership team and board, and they're going to be like, "You want to do what? Like, we've been selling boxes of toothpaste and boxer shorts and t-shirts for 50 years, and you want to go into the services business?" And, praise God, our team is fired up about the opportunity to do this and to really live further into that vision that we put out there almost 10 years ago now, and not just do it from the philanthropic efforts of the foundation, which our team members and our leadership really love, but really thinking about it from a business perspective of how we do it, and do it in a way that, because it's organized from a business perspective, it's automatically got the business to scale and be sustainable in a much wider way than it would from a nonprofit model.
Cool. Well, that's the power of stopping after a season of working on something and really kind of rethinking it. And you had the benefit of watching all those nonprofits that you've been funding. So, Doug, we're going to switch now to the Q&A. And I wonder, could you take us into the poll then, and take us through our listeners' priorities, and then lead us into the questions as well, and then we'll spend the next 30 minutes or 20 minutes talking through questions that folks have. And I think Doug is maybe just rebooting, because I see he's got a little screen down there, Robert. While we're waiting on Doug to come back,
Sure.
You have integrated your family into this whole plan, and your tribe is, just think about it. The kids are now 14 down to 6, and that happened overnight, right? In a soundbite, what was the benefit to you of not just getting caught up in the company, but thinking about the company alongside your health and your family and your faith?
Quite honestly, I think I could have ruined all of those other beautiful things in my life in pursuit of success of the company. We did an acquisition in 2006 as a company, and I found lots of models for doing just that. But I think, I thank God for C12. I thank God for halftime to help give me the perspective of what's truly important in life. Because Bob Barker Company being a multi-thousand employee business and a multi-billion-dollar business, if my family is a mess and my life is a mess and we're not really impacting individuals for the kingdom or for the greater good, then like what's it really all
Right.
for? So
Yeah.
so thankful for that
Yeah.
perspective.
And just personally, this is one of the things that brings me the most joy, is to see you guys just building into those kids and loving them, and you getting home on time to be with them, and your mind is free to be fully present when you're home. And that's a big payday. I mean, as much as I care about what you're doing in the prison ministry. So let's look at this poll here together. 50% of them say that when it comes to the big issues that they face around remapping or re-envisioning their next season or refreshing it, they're not sure about what I need to sustain this work over the long haul. So that's a big piece, and we can talk about that next maybe. And then 25% say that the people around me are not aligned with my vision. I need to reflect carefully on who the people are that I will focus on, and I might need missing people on my team. And then 25%, their mission statement and purpose need to be revised and refined. So thinking first about, okay, I'm not sure what I'm going to need to sustain this work over the long haul. I remember, Bob Muzikowski built the largest intercity Little League in Chicago. And, it's tough. You don't win all those cases. Every kid you try to help does not get helped, right? And then he started the Chicago Hope Academy, and it's a school in a tough section of Chicago for kids that really have opportunities to excel. And it's the only high school in the state of Illinois with no locks on the lockers. And yet not all those kids survive. And it's exhausting to him. And I remember having conversations about what does it take to survive this over the long haul. So maybe before we go to the questions, talk about, at 50, what do you think you need in order to be still engaged in fighting recidivism, enhancing the prison system, and bringing justice and Jesus' love and compassion to prisoners 30 years from now?
I mean, I honestly, I think the encouragement of peers at halftime is probably one of the most important things. Also in my C12 groups with just like-minded people that are really focused on the most important things in life and that can really encourage you in your journey and a couple things, right? Like to stay focused on the most important things, and maybe also tap you on the shoulder when maybe you're getting a little bit distracted with the things of this world. And hey, is that really, the highest and best use of your time and energy and that sort of thing? And, just kind of reminders about that. Right. Mm-hmm. I think having peers that are walking through a similar journey has been one of the most encouraging things to me. And I'm real interested to learn, what some of the long-term plans are with halftime for, alumni and continuing in that, in that vein. But I think just, feeling like you're not alone in this journey and that you're like out there on the island by yourself doing this. And, I've just been encouraged by how many just, really bright and thoughtful and passionate and just Christ-loving individuals that are on this journey. It's such an encouragement to me to see their roadmaps and see their plans and see how they're thinking about things.
Yeah.
To help me think about my own. So,
and so one option is to come back through a refresher like we'll be doing regularly, and you can just click that green button and let me know that you're interested. But having a personal board of directors is a powerful thing too. And or some buddies that you just share your roadmap with. I share it with my 3 people that are on my personal board every December. I ask them for feedback. Your seasons of life change. So we now have 3 grandbabies and 2 are right here. And now our family's doubled in size. We've got each of our kids married. So I have two daughters and two sons-in-laws and a daughter-in-law, and I need to love those people extravagantly as well as our kids. And so my personal board have said to me, Lloyd, you're going to take a half a day to be like this afternoon. I was with our two little grandbabies, a 1-year-old with 2 hearing aids because she has hearing impairment, and a 3-year-old that's potty training. And that was like most of my afternoon, Robert. Well, you know what? That's a new season of life, right? I'd forgotten about changing diapers when you and I were together last. And now I'm getting to be an expert at it. And, so my personal board have said to me, you got to carve out that time on your calendar. It means you got to say no to some things, which means you need more leverage. You need to get more done with less time by building leverage into your life in this season. Well, that's a new season of life for me. And without a personal board, I might not have done that. And I might have either missed out on the time with the grandbabies, which is priceless, or I might have just missed out on ministry opportunities and not been forced to rethink how I do ministry. And now I don't do anything alone. So I'm always working with somebody else that I'm giving it away to. Well, let's take a few minutes here and look at these questions. And I'm not sure what happened to our buddy Doug. So I'll just see if he's around. Let me just quickly text him. So one question is, when you compare your old plan to your new plan in general, how has your perspective changed? That's one question. And another one, is there any way to reach inmates with media resources, for example, the halftime live streams or similar things like that? So, what would you say at a high level is how's your perspective changed as you look back 9 years ago versus what you're doing now in your plan?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the biggest thing, honestly, is just kind of having an opportunity to try on the plan and live into it and experience it for a period of time to have a better, understanding of something that was kind of theoretical at the outset, because I'd done plenty of business plans or strategic plans as a company before, but I'd never really had like a strategic plan for my life before. So kind of understanding what that really meant and what that looks like, and having experience with it to, kind of like the first time we ever developed a business plan at Bob Barker Company or strategic plan, I am sure it was terrible. Now, fortunately, I've had some experiences from business that I could draw from into my personal life plan that I think helped me not make it terrible. But, so I think the biggest thing is having had the opportunity to walk through it and experience it for a period of time to see what's working and what's not working. And once again, I'm a big fan of your advice of the annual refresh of that. And also just, the season of life is changing. As you were talking about grandchildren, we've had a conversation about how, with my 14-year-old, now I maybe need to be transitioning more from the cop to the coach with him, and really helping him in his personal decision-making. Mm-hmm. And, and there's a lot of wisdom in that. And so I think just, thinking about my relationships, my marriage, how those have changed over time, and how I need to change to continue to nurture those relationships and love extravagantly.
Doug, how are you?
A little frustrated, but I'm back.
No problem. No problem at all. We're zigged and zagged, and that's good.
That's right.
So one option for folks is this is a new service, is the halftime refresher, with a small group of peers, 4 meetings over 4 months to work on purpose, platform, people, persistence, and build 4 separate tabs in your Excel roadmap that then you can share with your family, you can share with your personal board. We were just talking about persistence, and Robert, you're working with prisoners, and I was thinking of the life of William Wilberforce and the role that a personal board played in his life to help him sustain fighting slavery for 30 years against the economic interests of everybody in Parliament. And you just think about that. Watch the movie Amazing Grace. If you haven't watched that movie, it's actually my favorite movie. I've watched it 7 times. And Robert, I hardly make it through a movie once. I watched that movie and I cried. It's a guy who can't get out of the way of his calling. It's like the French poet that said, when you discover your destiny, if you don't follow it, it follows you like an accusing shadow. and this guy fought slavery for 30 years, and then he sat in a balcony and cried when they finally emancipated slaves in Britain. So, Doug, things that you would add to our conversation now, and there's another question there. If you guide us into that, I think
I will. So, Dean asks, Robert, when you look back on this journey, are there 2 or 3 important learnings that could help others as they pursue their personal Ephesians 2:10 calling?
I think maybe one of the things that I would suggest is, I think if we sort of think about things from our own individual perspective and maybe what we're capable of on our own, I think what we can envision for our impact is going to be relatively limited. But I think if we think about what's possible if God is with us in what we're doing, and in fact is only possible with God being on our journey, that's got the opportunity to increase our dependence on Him and our love for Him in walking through that. So I think even though at times I can feel overwhelmed by sort of the big, hairy audaciousness of these goals of, reducing recidivism and prison populations in the United States and alternatives to incarceration and things of that nature, for the fact that I know that God is in this with me, I think pushes me and also draws me closer to Him. So I would encourage people to think in that way of what's possible with God, not just of yourself. I think, I think it kind of started out as a minor thing to me, but I think I realized not too far along in my journey, like if I don't prioritize my health, my halftime might have passed a long time ago, and there's a lot of wood to chop in this plan, so I better make sure I'm doing everything I can on my end of the bargain to make sure that I'm taking care of myself. And part of my original halftime plan was to glorify God in my body as a temple of the Holy Spirit, and so I've been working towards doing that, and I think that has really served me in terms of giving me the energy to love my family well, to pursue these audacious goals, and get up early in the morning for quiet time and exercise and be able to do all those things, have the energy to do it. So those are a couple of insights off the top of my head.
That's great. Thank you.
Did we, well, I was scrambling to get back on, and you were probably at the perseverance stage, and that's where I was. Robert, did we kind of pull this together to summarize? Because there's a lot of us that have been halftime alumni for, a half dozen years. Could you summarize kind of what the process has meant to you?
The refresher process, or the whole halftime process? The refresher process. No, I think one, it's been a tremendous encouragement to me to really pull up again. And once again, Lloyd was talking earlier about a kind of a decade span in your life. There's some pretty meaningful change that's gone on, and that's close to what I've had since I originally cast this plan. So I think just having the opportunity to step back and think about what the coming 10 years of your life looks like and how you might best prepare for that and love the people in your family well, and in your tribe, as call it in halftime. And I think that, in addition to having peers around you that are an encouragement that you can get other perspective and ideas from, about how you can continue to grow in your journey and learn from theirs, as well, has been a very, very powerful thing walking through this process. I think challenging me to think about my platforms and what's the best way for me to go after this vision, and really forcing us to sort of creatively, hey, if the foundation could never cut another check to a nonprofit organization again, what would it do? How would it move forward with the resources that it have and impact this issue? If my role at the company changed in a significant way and I stepped into something else, or even potentially a different organization, what would that look like? And really just challenging me to creatively think through those possibilities, to open up pathways to things in the future. And I think really also thinking about who are the people that need to come alongside you in this journey to help you be successful. And if you talk to Lloyd for more than a few minutes, of all the people that he's involved with and knows and is connected with, it's an encouragement to me to think about people that, okay, I'm going to reach out to the author of this book on recidivism and say, hey, would you be on my personal board of directors, or would you consider being a part of what we're doing with the foundation, or those sort of things? Just connecting with people that can have a real meaningful impact with what you're doing, and thinking about that in a strategic way, in your tribe, I think are all things that have been really impactful with this refresher of the second half plan.
Good. Well, maybe we should stop there, Doug, unless you have something else. And again, thank you, Robert. I love what you're doing. I love you and your family, and the way you love them well, and the way you care for your employees. And I like that you keep those numbers of the impact. I mean, it's not, numbers can seem mercenary, but these are all compassionate touches in people's lives. And I can't wait to see how you transform this industry for good. And Doug, thank you again. Don't get frustrated by the technology. That's just comes with the turf. We wouldn't be doing this without you. So thanks for your friendship. And so the big things for all of us is, number one, take time to refresh your halftime journey. Every decade is at least the minimum. And then every year, spend time and go back to your roadmap and rethink it. I share mine with my adult kids, and I ask them for feedback. And it's a powerful thing. Both they give me great ideas, and I'm modeling for them how to be chief life officer. Spend time, spend a day or two each year just silently with your Bible and your notepad, and think and dream and think about these four big areas. What's my purpose, and how does it need to be refined? How will I retool the platform or the organization I'm using to make and to leverage to make the impact that I want to make? Who are the people around me I'm going to love extravagantly, and the people I need to finish well? And what do I need to infuse into my life in order to persist and finish well over the long haul? So we'll stop with that. And again, Robert, thanks so much for your time. Doug, thanks for leading us through this. And thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll catch you next month with another exciting topic.
And if anybody has been inspired or wants additional information, again, click on the green box there, the bottom center of your screen, and you can follow up and look into our program coming up at the end of the year. Thank you for the huge crowd we had in the audience. We thank you for all the comments. Robert, thank you so much. And Lloyd, it's always a pleasure. So we look forward to seeing everybody on the next event. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.